What's going on YouTube? It's your guy Darren, the BowTie Fragrance Guy. On this channel, we talk about looking good and smelling amazing. So over here on this channel, I'm going to be giving you guys some style tips. We're going to talk about some menswear things that really revolve around being a gentleman. But we're also, of course, primarily on this channel going to be talking about fragrances, how you can smell your best each and every day. So if those things sound of interest to you, I recommend you and invite you to go ahead and click on the subscribe button. And while you're at it, click on the bell icon as well. That way you get notified every time I release new content on the channel. Now, the way YouTube is set up now, you have to hit the bell icon and hit the word all. That way you get all of this content that I'll be releasing on this channel. So guys, today we're going to be talking about a very iconic fragrance, and that is Creed Aventus. It is the 10-year anniversary. The fragrance was released in the year of 2010. Since then, this fragrance has become probably the most popular fragrance in the fragrance world as a whole. So in celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the fragrance that is Creed Aventus, I'm going to be talking about some fragrances in my collection that were either inspired by Creed Aventus or either direct clones of this fragrance. So if you guys want to hear about that, you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. All right, guys, I'm back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Creed Aventus. Again, I always say, whether you've been a part of the fragrance community for 5 minutes or 5 years, I am sure you've already heard about this, what has now become iconic fragrance. It took the world by storm in 2010 when Creed released Aventus because it was this smoky pineapple thing. That's how you always hear people refer to this scent. There has been mass hysteria since that time frame. There are Facebook groups that are dedicated solely to this fragrance, where they get in and talking about all the different batch variations, the pineapple batches, the smoky batches, the ones that are so good, the ones that are not so good. Yeah, you got your lovers of the fragrance, and of course, anything that's popular, you're gonna have your haters as well. But at the end of the day, you know what my motto is. People's opinion of this fragrance doesn't change how it affects me. I still feel the same way. I don't care who loves it or hates it. When I wear it, I still get the same feeling when I wear it, and I still get similar responses from people when I wear this scent. So I continue to rock it, and personally, I love it. Now, I already know in the comment section there's going to be at least one guy that says, man, I don't like Creed Aventus. Hey man, cool. You're entitled to your own opinion, but as for me, I'm going to keep rocking it because it's a fragrance that I really enjoy in my collection. So with that being said, 10-year anniversary, there are 10 fragrances I have in my collection that were either inspired or direct clones of Creed Aventus. I want to talk about those fragrances. Now, I do have the first one. It's upstairs and I forgot to bring it down. I'm going to be actually talking about these fragrances from this collection in an upcoming video, but there's a relatively new fragrance house called Dossier Perfumes. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they have a fragrance, I think it's the Oriental Woody. And it smells a lot like Creed Aventus. As a matter of fact, it said it was inspired by Creed Aventus. And I've tried the fragrance out, and I will tell you, it does smell a lot like Aventus, especially on the opening. Of course, it's not as strong, and you can tell that the ingredients and notes in it is not as powerful. They didn't use quite the level of ingredients that is used in Creed Aventus, but it is a really good fragrance. I would say is definitely for the price, because you can get it for between $29 to $39, and it is an EDP concentration. So it is a really good fragrance for the price. But that's one fragrance that was inspired by Creed Aventus, and it gives you a write-up on the fragrance and tells you exactly that. So that one to me is pretty good, especially for the price at the $29 to $39 price point. The next fragrance that I would say, I guess, was inspired by it to some degree was this one right here from Bond Number 9, that's Scent of Peace. Now, I did a comparison video with this and several other fragrances where I talked about how similar they were to Creed Aventus or how dissimilar they were to Creed Aventus. And this one to me is about at that 50%. It's not a direct clone by any means. I guess you could say inspired. It does have pineapple in it, but it's doesn't really have that smokiness that you get from Aventus. So again, to me, it's not really definitely not a clone, but it's more of a fragrance, I guess you could say, that was inspired. I mean, anytime a fragrance has the note of pineapple, people are going to probably start to compare it to Aventus. That's just how it goes. But to me, this one is definitely not a clone. It's inspired by, I guess you can say. But on its own, this is a really, really good scent. But this is one of the fragrances that a lot of people compare to Creed Aventus, which I think is a really good one. The next one was this one right here. I think it was released last year. It was Mont Blanc Explorer. Now again, when you start to look at the bottle and stuff like that on these kind of fragrances, I think that makes it a little bit more obvious that the fragrance was definitely inspired by Creed Aventus. But again, I put this into the inspired category. Definitely not a clone. A lot of people have kind of argued about how similar this is to Creed Aventus. I fall on the side where I can tell it was inspired, but again, it's not a direct clone. This is a little bit more of a fruity, kind of warm, ambery, dried down on this one, a little bit sweet, but it doesn't really have that smoky thing as well. But you do get some fruity accords that are going to kind of remind you of the pineapple and stuff like that. So definitely inspired, but not a clone. But for the price that you can get this at now, it is a good scent to have in your collection as something that will kind of give you the vibe of Creed Aventus. The next one here, this one is from the House of English Laundry, and this is London. Now guys, this fragrance smells almost identical to Creed Aventus for about 10 minutes because that is almost as long as this thing lasts. If this thing has some staying power, for the price point that you can pick this up, because you can get it in bargain bins now at places like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, you know, the rack stores as people refer to them as, you can find this for about $15. Is it worth it? I guess, because it does smell like Aventus, but I'm telling you, this probably is one of the worst performing fragrances I've ever put my hands on. Because again, you get about an hour of complete longevity, and that's kind of pushing it. But it does, for about 10 minutes, smell like Creed Aventus. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is called Unpredictable Adventure. And again, if you look at the bottle, you got the silver and the black hues in the bottle, which is again just like Creed Aventus. And this is one that a lot of people don't talk about. I heard about this fragrance through Steven's channel at Redolescence when he did a video about some Aventus clones years ago, and I picked it up, and it does resemble Aventus, but it's a very, very smoky batch of Aventus. Now I will say this, it does perform pretty good, because this is another one you can find for under that $25 price point, but is absent of the fruitier accords. But there's other fragrances that I'll talk about in this video that you can kind of blend this with, and you'll really get a nice vibe of a smoky batch of Aventus. But this, you really get the smoky birch tar stuff, but you don't really get a lot of the pineapple. So if you're one of the people that likes the pineapple batches of Aventus, this may not be one of the clones or inspired Creed Aventus fragrances that you would reach for. But again, you can blend it with some of the fruitier pineapple fragrances and really get a nice batch, I guess you will, of Aventus. But again, for the price point, it's really, really good. Now we're really getting into some of the more heavy hitters, and this one right here from Roger Parfums, this is Elysium. This is one of the fragrances included on the video, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details about it, but it does resemble Creed Aventus. Definitely not a clone, but this is a good fragrance. Again, just a testament to how popular the fragrance Creed Aventus is, when you have fragrances like this that were made by companies like Roger Dove that it draws comparisons to. But another good one that definitely does resemble Creed Aventus. The next one up on the list is from the House of Mancera, and this is Cedrat Boisé. Another one that I included on that list. And like I said, it is similar. You get some smokiness, a smoky vibe that comes really more from leather, and you definitely get the accord. Now this one does not have pineapple in it, but there's a citrus combination that creates a fruity accord on the top that will kind of put you in the mindset of pineapple. But again, a great fragrance for the price. Another one that people compare to Creed Aventus. Now these next three are probably the closest, in my opinion, to Creed Aventus that I have in my collection. And we'll start with this one right here, which is Hachivat from Nichane. Again, I talked about this one at great length as well. Won't go into a lot of detail, but it does remind you of Aventus, but it is a lot more of an earthier, a little bit greener fragrance from oak moss and the use of patchouli in this. What I will tell you right now, I told you guys before, this one totally outperforms Creed Aventus. This outperforms most fragrances, but a really, really good alternative to the Creed Aventus scent DNA. This is a good one from Nichane. This is Hachivat. And then we have, of course, Club de Nuit Intense Man. Again, harsh opening on this to some degree, but I'm telling you right now, man, one of the most complimented fragrances in my collection. Very much resembles Creed Aventus. I think this is more of a clone because it is very, very close in my humble opinion. Of course, somebody with a trained nose can really differentiate the quality of ingredients used in the fragrances, but again, to the untrained nose, most people can't really detect the difference. So a really, really great fragrance I always say to pick up under the $30 price point, especially if you can get your hand on one of the older batches. I have one of the newer batches as well. It's a little bit watered down, but still pretty good for the price point. But this is one of the OGs. I'm gonna try to hold on to this because this is a great scent that was definitely a clone of Aventus for under the $30 price point. And then last but not least, Pineapple Vintage. This is the original one. I really love this juice. To me, this is the best clone of Creed Aventus, even better than Club de Nuit Intense Man. They did a great job with the original Pineapple Vintage of capturing the scent DNA of Creed Aventus in a bottle. I'm not really sure if they're making this one anymore or not. I mean, they've had a lot of Aventus inspired fragrances or clones come out from this house, but to me, this was one of the best ones. I have about maybe 35–40% of this left. I'm gonna try to really hold on to it because I really enjoy this one, man. Again, the ingredients in it seem to be very, very well done, and some high quality ingredients used in this. So I really like this one. To me, again, it's the best of the bunch. This is Pineapple Vintage. So guys, that's it. Those were 10 fragrances that I wanted to discuss and kind of celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the fragrance that is Creed Aventus. In my humble opinion, it's still worth it to have this scent in your collection. It's iconic for a reason, and it received a lot of talk and dialogue from people in the fragrance community for a great reason. It's a great fragrance. For me, I would never try to argue or debate that because I'm a fan of the scent. Of course, there's going to be people out there that this does not work for. There's going to be people out here that don't like this because of all of the attention that it receives. But it is what it is, man. I don't get into all that foolishness. To me, it's about whether or not I like the scent and whether or not I vibe with it, and how it makes me feel. So at the end of the day, I think it's still a fragrance, even in the year 2020, that is still worth it. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed me talking about the fragrance that is Creed Aventus as I kind of, celebrated the 10-year anniversary of this iconic scent. I always appreciate you guys taking time to watch my videos because I understand you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with me, and I sincerely appreciate that. Now, don't forget to take the time to like, comment, and subscribe, and share these videos out to folks that you think could use this information or find me entertaining, because I'm your main man, Darren, the BowTie fragrance guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.